What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Neighborhood Podcast. I'm half of the podcast, Kevin Valentin.
The other half of the podcast. My name is Kyle Dabra. Kevin, what do we got on the agenda for this segment?
So, on this segment, we are going to talk about some previewed matchups coming up in this NFL Sunday, Week 3. First and foremost, we're going to talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers traveling over to see the Los Angeles Rams at SoFi Stadium. As of right now, both teams are 2-0. Both teams relatively seem to be very dominant. To my standards, I would say almost somewhat unstoppable. And to me, this may be a future playoff implication. So, to Kyle, I'm going to pose the question. Do you think, granted, we're only 2 weeks in, do you think this is an early foresight of what could be the NFC Championship game?
I believe so. I believe that this could be potentially a divisional round, if not an NFC championship matchup when it's all said and done when it comes to that time in January. So when I look at the Buccaneers, I'll start with them first. They've been unstoppable. Offensively, Tom Brady just has this team humming. I mean, he's got 9 touchdowns to 2 interceptions, and honestly, those 2 interceptions in large part really aren't his fault. One was a tip pass from Leonard Fournette. The other one was a Hail Mary at the end of the first half against the Cowboys. And outside of that, the connections that he's been able to make with Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown, and Rob Gronkowski, it's been phenomenal. And to kind of focus on Gronk here for a little bit, he's having a resurgent year this year. Brady is really finding him in good spaces, and they've been able to connect on not just 1 or 2 touchdowns. Like they've been connecting very well the entirety of these 2 wins that they've had so far. They're coming off of a win in Atlanta where the team overall scored 48 points. Brady was sensational. He threw 5 touchdowns against Atlanta's defense. Granted, Atlanta is not one of the best teams in the NFL. They do kind of suffer from some issues on the defensive side of the ball, but still, 5 touchdowns against a divisional foe, that is still impressive. And defensively, while they did struggle a little bit in that Atlanta game, they came up clutch when it mattered the most. They were able to get 2 pick sixes late in the fourth quarter against the Falcons. And I do think to a certain extent that could be a catalyst for getting this defense ready to go for this Rams matchup that's coming up this weekend. So Tampa Bay's humming. They're Super Bowl champions from last year. They have a very good chance to go back to the Super Bowl if everybody's healthy and they keep playing the way that they are. And it's really kind of like a situation where their own worst enemy is probably themselves. Because I think by and large, they're going to be the favorite in most of the games that they play against. Now, when I look at the Rams are an up and coming team. And I think with the addition of Matthew Stafford this offseason in a trade from Detroit, they are literally at the top of the pecking order in the NFC right alongside the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. In the first couple weeks, they've looked sensational on the offensive side of the ball. Matt Stafford has looked efficient. He's being able to connect with his targets in Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods. I mean, Cooper Kupp against the Indianapolis Colts was sensational. He had 9 catches for over 160 yards and 2 touchdowns in that game against the Colts. He torched whoever he was matched up against
You
in
have to
that
rub it
Colts
in that
game.
hard? Jesus Christ.
I'm just saying the stats don't lie, my guy. I know you're a
Eh.
Colts fan, but it is what it is. So not only that, they were able to get a decent run game going in that Colts game. They were able to get about 50, 55 yards from Darrell Henderson. They got about 45 yards from Sony Michel. If they could be able to be a little bit more consistent in the run game, offensively, it's a very well rounded unit. And I do think that once we really kind of get into the season, once we get into October and November, I think this Rams offense is going to be sky high when it comes to the midway part of the season. And defensively, they're one of the top defenses in the league. That pass rush that they have is phenomenal with Aaron Donald. You got Jalen Ramsey on the back end. And I think defensively, they could present Tampa some challenges this week. It's going to be tough because you're going up against guys like Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Gronk, Cameron Brate, and then guys out of the backfield like Leonard Fournette and Ronald Jones. So it is definitely going to test that Rams defense. But I do think that if the Rams are able to bring a consistent pass rush against Brady, I think there's definitely some opportunities for some takeaways, or at the very least, they could get to Brady and sack him a couple times. We did see Atlanta sack Brady a couple times in that matchup, and that was despite the fact that Atlanta is not very good defensively. So the Rams, with the pass rush that they have, I think they could definitely present some challenges to Tampa this week. But I mean, to answer your question again, yeah, I think this has a very good chance of being an NFC Championship preview when it's all said and done.
I'm going to definitely agree on most of the fronts, excluding the fact of I'm going to go on the opposite side, and I think Tampa is going to find ways to expose uh, LA, only because, as Kyle already nicely put, the Rams torched the Colts defensively, but offensively, the Colts were able to rebuttal and come within 3 points of winning this game at home. Carson Wentz ends up getting hurt late in the game, and that's why Jacob Eason has to come in. And who knows what happens if Carson stays for that final drive? It could be something totally different, but that's neither here nor there. The point of the matter is that Rams defense was able to have holes poked in it with an Indianapolis incompetent offense and nobody of the magnitude of Mike Evans or Godwin or Gronk. Zach Pascal was our best receiver, and Michael Pittman had a freaking game. But those are two no-name receivers. With respect, guys, I love you. I swear to God, if you happen to see this, I'm not insulting you. You're my boys. But when you actually put on paper in comparison, Godwin and Evans are just a 10 times better tandem. Granted, Brady had some pressure put on him in Atlanta last week, like Kyle said. But I feel that Bruce Arians is going to come prepared. Maybe Gronk will be blocking a little bit more this week. Maybe Cameron Braid will be utilized a little bit more on the offensive side of the ball. Who knows? I don't see Bruce Arians letting his franchise and a 44-year-old quarterback who just led him to his first Super Bowl get beat up like he did last week. And the Rams offense is definitely still one of the highest powered offenses in the league. But like Kyle said, they have to be able to run the ball. And Tampa's got the best rush defense in the NFL. So without the play action, will Matt Stafford be that successful? Will Shaq Barrett go out and get him? Will that Tampa defense get to the quarterback just like they did last week? I'm going to tell you that I believe that Tampa is going to win this game. Do I know why? Absolutely not. I genuinely think that Tampa's offense is just that good, and that if Indy's offense was able to put up points, I don't see why Tampa can't.
Well, I mean, to kind of dive into like the prediction for me on this one, I've been kind of back and forth on this game just because LA is the home team. LA was successful against the Bucks last year. They were able to beat them in Tampa last year and in a close regular season matchup. I was going to pick the Rams, but I think I'm going to side with the Buccaneers in a close win here, simply just
100%.
because, look, I think what Tampa's going to do to stymie that pass rush that LA has, I think they're going to get the ball out quick. I think they're going to try to get the ball out within like 2.5 seconds and try to beat the Rams pass rush that way. Now, if the pass rush for LA doesn't get home and the Bucks do a relatively good job of just defending it, then I do see the play action being a huge factor in this game. I don't know how much Tampa's going to run the ball against that front seven that the Rams have. So I do think this is a game where I think Tom is going to throw the ball a lot. And I do think that Matt Stafford for the Rams is going to throw the ball a lot as well, because even though that the Bucks beat Atlanta last week, Matt Ryan showed me that that defense can be had. And Dak Prescott did essentially the same thing to the Buccaneers secondary in the first game of the season when the Bucks barely beat the Cowboys. So I think the game plan for the Rams is definitely try to beat this Tampa secondary deep, or at least beat them on some intermediate routes with Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, maybe Tyler Higbee gets involved a little bit more than he has the last couple games. And I think that's the matchup, or at least that's the plan, I think, for the Rams moving forward in this. Attack Tampa secondary. Make sure that that pass rush from JPP and Levante David and Shaq Barrett doesn't get home. So this is a situation where I think both offenses know that they got to get the ball out early, because both pass rushes can get home very quickly. And I think this is going to be a high scoring game just because you got two high powered offenses going up against each other with somewhat compromised secondaries. So I could see this game being in the 30s for both teams realistically.
Yeah, I would love a shootout between the top two teams in the NFC. I would love a pre-indicating matchup to see what the NFC Championship could look like. And like Kyle said, Tampa Bay is pretty much reloaded, and this is the same team that they had last year. But I think that LA has made improvements, especially at the quarterback position. So they're not exactly the same exact team that they were. But I do think that Tampa is going to be very, very well prepared for whatever happens out there in SoFi Stadium. I don't think that Tom Brady is going to be hit as much, even though that the pass rush for the Los Angeles Rams is 10 times better than Atlanta's. But again, I think that Arians will adjust. I think Tom is going to get the ball out quickly because they know the dominant force that is Aaron Donald. And we will see a great game and a potential foreshadowing postseason matchup.
Yep. I mean, I don't know what it is with me and scores. I always like to put a score out there, but if I had to put a score on this one, I think it's going to be like 34 to like 28. I think it's going to be somewhere around there. I think the Bucks continue that trend of scoring, 30 points plus in another game in a row. They've been doing it since last season, and they've just been on a tear offensively, and I think that continues in this game. But I think this is going to be a close game. I think this is going to be like a possession game when it's all said and done.
First team to make a turnover wins?
Yeah, potentially.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it goes down all the way down to that kind of wire. First quarterback to make a mistake. But that about wraps it up for this segment, guys. Stay tuned. We got a couple more games that we are going to make some predictions on and do a little bit of a deep coverage on. We got about 3 or 4 more. So please stay tuned. Again, if you like the video, please like it. And if you do like the content, please make sure you subscribe, turn on the notification to get notified of when we're going to drop more content. And as always, we really appreciate it. And we'll be back soon.
Yep. We'll see you guys later.